Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. Good morning, Peter. Hey, we'll jump into our pre-market scans. Morning, morning. Well, yes, your puts are fucked again. Well, we'll see, right? Market hasn't closed, but yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a pretty strong session. Uh, my voice comes and goes. Let me just make sure my mic is all good here on the settings. Sometimes when my computer updates, it changes my microphone from my Yeti to my computer audio. All right. Hopefully that's better, Peter. Good for now. Thanks. I'm hoping we get a bounce because I've got some long exposure that I need it to firm up here. And I would love to short higher. I do think the market can go down, but for this time being, I think we can get a nice bounce. I think we can get a decent bounce. Continuation. I need to just get my situation set up here. I need a new notepad. Finished my notepad. Yeah, the time for negotiation can be fake, for sure. It could be, but for the time being, it's the market's actually loving that. And again, the negotiation when is supposed to take place tomorrow, I think Thursday. Is tomorrow Thursday? Today's Wednesday, right? Yeah, today's Wednesday. Tomorrow Thursday. So we might get a bounce. at least into today, tomorrow. I'm really hoping this gap up holds, but gap ups are notoriously known for getting faded. I think it's a little bit different because you do have crude oil and nat gas week this morning. A couple things I'm watching as well is going to be this VIX UVXY right now. So UVXY did print a daily hanging man candle yesterday. Lacked a little bit of volume, so it's not as strong as a technical signal or candle formation. That being said, you're still holding UVXY above this 7-day moving average, 49.56. That's a level I want to see the bears push it back below. Or I guess in this case, the bulls need to push the market up to push the VIX down. So I want to see if we can get a push back below the 7-day moving average. Intraday, right now we have a pretty wide range again on the VIX with your pre-market highs and lows. Pre-market high 51.25, so you're kind of sandwiched right in the middle. But you are down right now, which is a positive sign. Ultimately, guys, the big level for the VIX UVXY ETF is going to be this trend line here, call it around 46.66. That is kind of the line that if you get a daily or even a weekly close below that, the markets should rejoice a little bit. But you're still vulnerable. As long as you stay above that, you are vulnerable. All right, crude oil, guys, is softening up here a little bit. Let me go to my other chart here, US oil. So US oil does look like a bit of a bear flag H pattern on the 4-hour chart here. You're sitting right on the support line, and you can see that you've now hammered on this EMA 113, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th time here. I mean, and they still keep holding it. So a little bit of a positive, but if this breaks, you're building up a lot of consolidation to press quite lower here. Another reason why they're holding this area is you're sitting right on the 20-day. If we look at USO, USO is gapping down this morning 109.32. I think the bulls want to see USO close above this previous gap fill. The bears want to push it below. So 108.14 is a critical level. Crypto's getting a good bounce this morning. BTC back above the key daily chart moving averages, looking constructive. Why? Because you got some higher lows and potentially some higher highs. Although this could be one massive bear flag, I still think that you're going to retest this downsloping trend line. So that's until we tag this trend line here on crypto BTC. That is my big short level, kind of right in this vicinity, 77. But there's even a chance you can get through that and retest 84. But so far, there's a nice little easy channel. I think you can buy the lows, short the highs until we break out of that channel. But crypto's looking pretty decent this morning. Economic data, crude oil inventories at 10:30, guys. So after an hour of trading, we will have oil inventories that can be market moving, especially since everyone's been focusing on crude as the new VIX per se. So IWM is gapping up to 251. IWM is showing the most relative strength already into prior day high, which is very interesting. You can see how QQQ is well underneath its prior day high. So small caps, surprisingly small caps are acting so resilient. It's quite shocking to me. With higher rates, you would have expected small caps to lag a little bit. US 2-year yield still remains firm, guys. Still a strong chart pattern. Bonds have been wrecked. You look at TLT, guys. TLT is getting interesting down here. Very interesting for a long trade on bonds. You filled a nice daily chart gap going back to September of last year. There's a couple little mini gaps down here that you may want to push, but I think that if you test this TLT range down here in and around these little pivots, call it 85 Pierce, you can start building into a position. Because remember, yields will go down. Although we have high oil, if oil keeps pressing higher, the longer oil stays up, the more damage it's doing to the underlying economy, and therefore it will likely eventually cause a recession or a disinflationary pressure, which in theory would help bonds soften up yields. Still a high probability of that. So Tesla's up 2.15% this morning, getting a nice push to the upside. I'm watching for rejection off that 200-day moving average, which is 395 and change. Big call wall there. If you get through that call wall, man, this can squeeze back to 407 pretty quickly. Meta's up 1.46% this morning, also getting a bump up. Microsoft is up about 1% or so. MSFT, very oversold your mag. Google right now is up 1.4%. Google's interesting because why it triggered yesterday that head and shoulders formation. So this is unwatched for another lower daily close, and that gives you a pretty big downside move on Google. Apple also on watch for a larger daily chart head and shoulders, has not triggered yet. Still holding above the daily 200, getting a nice gap up. So Apple, I think, can actually push higher. Structurally, Apple isn't spending as much on CapEx, as well as they have a whole shit ton of cash on their balance sheet. Nvidia right now, still underneath all the key daily chart moving averages. You really want to see Nvidia get back above that 200 if you're bullish. So 178.78-ish. Look at SoFi. You know, Intel's actually getting a really big bid today. Big gap up for Intel. How's Micron doing? Micron still remains pretty weak, guys. Look at Micron gap down. So this is actually one that probably gets a buy the dip. Wow, I didn't expect Micron to be that weak this morning. Go figure, right? When the market is ripping, Micron is still selling here. Oh yeah, how was GME? They had earnings yesterday. Ah, pretty muted. Pretty muted. Guys, natural gas remains super bearish. I don't know what's going to shake this asset up, but man, it looks weak. I would love to see it take out these lows. Let's look at Lululemon getting a little bit of a bounce here. Nike getting some follow through from yesterday. AMD looking pretty good. AMD looks like it wants to break out here, guys. I could see AMD retesting 220. AVGO, that's getting a nice push. There's quite a bit of room for upside in some of these charts. If they hold this gap up, these markets can really squeeze. A lot of short interest to unwind. Trump to name Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, and Jensen Huang to tech advisory panel. Wow, the president of Council of Advisors on Science and Technology will advise on AI policy and emerging tech issues. Interesting. Hmm. So Bank of America also pushing to the high side. We are long the $47 calls with members. So I think it's a good place to take more profits off of our financial trade. So I'll probably be looking to, I had an upside here of around 48.82. We did hit in the pre-market, so maybe we can get a little bit more upside intraday, but looking to trim some of these Bank of America profits. Quantum's doing quite well. Crypto's doing well. Crypto might be on watch for a big squeeze today again. You know, likes of Mara, they got pounded yesterday. Bitfarms, MSTR, and MSTR, and they're actually showing some really good strength here. Let's look at Cypher. Cypher looks ready to go. Oh shit, that's a big gap up on Cypher. Is there news on Cypher? Wow, almost up 10%. Cypher Digital secures 200 million four-year revolving credit by Morgan Stanley. Oh, okay. Interesting. Let's look at Iron. Cool. SMCI is getting some follow through. SMCI should get a back test of this channel. Uranium is getting a nice bounce today, guys. That's another sector that's pretty oversold and can squeeze hard. Names like SMR. UUU continues to be the outperformer. Big push on UUU. This one could probably squeeze today well above 19. I think UU is an interesting long opportunity today. Oklo, a little bit up but lagging, not as quality. Nice bounce in SoFi. I want to see if SoFi can maybe test its weekly high around 1740. So I was thinking last night, guys, and we went over the thesis of SoFi potentially being added to the S&P 500. It's the most likeliest candidate to be added to the next S&P 500 inclusion, which I believe is in, was it July, June or July? Let me just look that up. June 19th. Will occur on Friday, June 19th. Okay. Changes are typically announced June 12th. Okay, so June 12th you get the announcement for the next rebalancing of the S&P 500. June 19th the actual rebalancing occurs. So I'm just going to mark that on the chart here. June 12th. So June 12th is technically when SoFi should be added to the S&P 500. That being said, one of the major hiccups, and it's just recently surfaced, is SpaceX IPO. SpaceX IPO is going to be the largest IPO ever recorded in history. And there's already rumors that they're potentially going to fast track SpaceX into the S&P 500. So that's where the dilemma lies. Is SoFi going to get rejected? Do they put SpaceX, and we have to kind of see when they announce the IPO for, but if it's before June, they may try to fast track SpaceX and just give it the inclusion rights ahead of everyone because it's so big. It's producing profits. Um, it's earning like I think 15 billion EBITDA before off of its Starlink services. So I don't know. That's the only conundrum with SoFi now is does SoFi get pushed aside and SpaceX fast-tracked into the S&P 500. After SpaceX is included, then SoFi, I think, for sure gets in. So I don't think it's a bad position to basically start accumulating into. But just keep in mind, leave room in case they gap it down on earnings. That could easily happen. They could totally wash this asset out with a gap down and then buy it up into that rebalancing period. It's a tough one. All right, what else we got going? So energy today is under some pressure, XLE gapping down. I don't think this is going to get a buy the dip program that it has been getting. So we are seeing some interesting stocks gapping down this morning. CNQ, that's one that should start to fall pretty sharply here. Coming in really, really sharply. We got some nasty patterns forming on some of these parabolic energy stocks. So we'll see what happens. Silver today is flying to the high side. Silver just did a big back test, guys, of this key trend line. So this is now hitting some technical resistance. Let's look at gold. Gold is also trying. Gold still hasn't back tested its trend line yet. So perhaps a little bit more upside for gold. Yeah, the president is going to speak today, but it's later tonight, 7:20 p.m., I think. So it's much, much later. All right. We're a few minutes here till the open. I'm going to pull back that VIX chart, UVXY. We'll continue to watch that. Let me watch the hourly chart here. Go back to regular trading hours. Remember, we do have a potential inverted head and shoulders, guys, on this S&P chart that has triggered with this gap up, but we want to see it hold. I have an upside target of around 663.40, big squeeze zone. All right, I need to open up my brokerages. Wealth. Simple. Let's get ready to rock and roll, guys. Here we go. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, guys, markets are open here. Open sesame. Lots of volatility on individual names already. Fucking bullshit. Miners out. Bank of just dump my calls. I'm going to sell my $47 Bank of America calls. Beautiful. BAC absolute ripped here. So I'm taking profits on BAC, guys. BAC. We took 40% profit on BAC, 40% profit on BAC calls. Nice job on that trade if you were in that with us. Micron's getting absolutely slaughtered right now. Microsoft's lagging in a pretty big way so far. Pretty big way. IGV's still struggling. Crude oil is trying to catch a little bit of a bid. Crypto's acting very well. Morning Renzer. Our small sell side pressure trying to come back into the play. So that was a nice 40% on BAC calls, guys. That position is now closed for myself. Microsoft might start to get going here. We'll see. Silver still doing well. Mags are holding steady. The DXY is trying to push a little bit higher here. S&P is still acting well. Qs are coming into that 7-day moving average. Nice move on Boeing. Nice move on SoFi today, guys. That's up 3%. Beautiful move on SoFi. Come on, Microsoft. Get going. Get going, Mr. Softy. S&P still holding structure here. Crude oil's still a little soft, but the Dixie is trying to make a little bit of a push here. DXY, what are you doing? Hello. Qs are still ripping here to the top side. Uranium, look at that, up 6.64 and ripping. Cypher still up 8. That's pulled back from its pre-market levels. I think Micron's going to get a big dip buy here. It's already bouncing off of its lows, so this market can squeeze, guys. We could still squeeze. I got an upside target here on SPY around 663. That's where I think we could head to. Interesting. Yeah, Nvidia is ripping up 2.43, Google up 1.65, Microsoft lagging a little bit, still up about 0.97, Amazon up 2.5, Tesla up 3.3, Meta up 1.6, Apple up 1, QQQ up 1.18, SPY up 1.2, Dow's ripping Bitcoin, everything's strong here. Everything is strong. Qs are flying, baby. We ripping. SoFi's making a big valiant push. Look at this. QQQ now into the daily 7 moving average, guys. We ripping, baby. We ripping. Let's look at this SPX chart. SPX is now piercing its 200 moving average. Big squeeze, man. So I think the Qs want to get to their 200 moving average, guys, again. Dollar's still softening a little bit. QQQ still absolutely flying. Micron still lagging a little bit. Microsoft still trading underneath that weekly 200 moving average. Just a couple bucks away from recapturing that massive weekly level. We will see if it can get there. That level is 378.33. That's what I have. Software's catching a really good bid here and bounce. Man, these fucking CNQs are ridiculous. Oops. Didn't realize I had the guys. All right, small little softening here. Microsoft is still fucking lagging, man. You dog. QQQ, nasty little sell pressure off that 7-day moving average. Pretty hard there. Definitely some resistance here. After some consolidation, I think we can actually make a push for 66.63 SPX, which is about another 40 points higher. But the dollar's starting to rip here, guys. Just be careful. The DXY is starting to rip. We're right now underneath that daily 200 on the SPX. Just hovering right there. That's fucked up. Micron's trying to firm up a little bit. Still looking pretty squeezy here, guys. Yep, Bam is right. Big push on your circle there, up 8.5%, Caleb. Nice job there. Micron's clawing itself back here. Qs are coming into that pre-market high level. Still looks pretty good for more upside, guys. This is the interesting level I'm looking at on the Qs, guys. It's an hourly chart resistance trend line. It connects these pivot highs to that pivot low. So that's what I'm looking at for the Qs. Don't know how long it's going to take us to get there, but that puts the Qs around 593.86. I think after some consolidation, we can still push there. And that's kind of that daily 200 MA. Microsoft is giving up the goods here. Jeez. Fucking dirty, man. It's crazy how weak Microsoft is. Underperforming yet again. Another day. Apple's also starting to come in a little bit here. Crypto's still acting well. SoFi ripping. We're still seeing the markets running into a little bit of sell side pressure. After a big gap up like this, you would anticipate that. Looking at the VIX, VIX is still defending pre-market low, but underneath that 7-day, so that's a positive sign. You might get a back test of that 7-day on the UVXY, but the market is still setting up here for more upside as long as that VIX stays underneath that 7-day. Crude, small buy side pressure coming back into play. They just don't want to fucking bounce Microsoft, eh? Microsoft looks like it's gonna go flat to negative. Wild. Absolutely wild. Crude oil trying to get a little bit of an uptick here. Technically buying off that opening range, not a bad level. It's very risky, but OR low on SPY should catch a little bit of a bid. Maybe if they undercut it a little bit. You can see the rejection off the 7-day for QQQ. A little bit of profit takings to be expected. Your DXY is starting to rip here. Uh-oh. Market's not gonna like that. Dixie flying. XLE did get a nice little buy the dip. Micron still remains pretty weak, guys. After a little bit of a buy the dip here, still remaining pretty heavy, down 4%. Interesting. SOX ETF is still moving. Nvidia, slight rejection. Meta, seeing some softening in price. Google, same thing looks like Microsoft. Tesla, yep, Tesla rejected off that 200 moving average. Wow, it actually hit it. That's crazy. All right, big sell pressure coming in now. Big sell pressure. Are they going to gap and crack us? This is going to be wild. Looks like they might. Holy shit. Look into the tape here yet again. Natural gas still negative. Crude oil just turned green. WTI. Now it's red. Flat, basically. YS is saying Iraq orders further oil output cuts, asking BP and NEA to slash production at major southern fields. Interesting. Thank you for that. Iraq's oil falls about 80%. Thank you. Gold's trying to spike a little bit. Holy shit, they're melting us so far. They are melting us. So they're selling Apple. They've sold Microsoft off a little bit, although I still think Microsoft can catch a bid at some point today. Looks like it might want to fill that gap. It's wild. So weak. Crude oil is dollar are spiking here. Oh shit, they're gonna probably gap and crack us, guys. Holy shit. Here we go. Crude in the Dixie. They're getting rude. Looking at financials, guys, they are getting rejected. Bank of America is still trading quite well, but I'm all out of the call position. Your VIX is starting to climb, guys, back above that 7-day. That's a problem for the markets. Looking like we may gap and crack here. I still think we can bounce before a gap and crack truly occurs, but they're selling us pretty hard here. We're testing pre-market low on Qs, prior day high on SPY. This is a spot the bulls want to try to defend. Not a bad spot to try to go for a little bit of an intraday bounce. Software continuing to get drained here, guys. Uranium still remaining pretty strong. UNH is rolled over. Cypher still holding. Wow, Rocket Lab's up 9.6%. Damn, man. That's one to just keep buying the dip on. Western Digital down 6.3. That's getting smoked. Wow. WDC. WDC Micron, how is SNDK doing these days? Probably also down. Yeah, big gap down 8.2. Western Digital. Actually, this SNDK at an interesting spot here. Backtesting your breakout trend line. I don't think it's going to hold, but probably good enough for a bit of a bounce. Hmm. Qs are still sitting right on that pre-market low level. Then I do think upside calls are favored off this zone, guys. What's stronger, SPY or Qs? Qs are stronger than SPY. IWM is the strongest overall. Ten-minute chart. See if they want to bounce the market a little bit. Nice job, YS. YS is making some money today. Good stuff. All right, crude oil getting rejected here, guys. Nice little bounce in the market so far. Let's see how much more we can get. See if they can defend prior day high. Come on. Crude still softening. Dixie softening a touch here. Crude oil is softening, so the markets should like that. Crude is softening quite sharply here, but tech is still seeing some sell side pressure through software. Software is really, really struggling. Microsoft struggling here. What else? Apple's struggling as well. Nvidia's still ripping. Markets are still fighting here. Big battleground. VIX is still red. Starting to hit the tape. Markets are still struggling here. Still struggling. Man. Still trying to defend those pre-market levels on SPY. We are piercing pre-market low right now. QQQ's piercing its pre-market low. Shit's starting to come in again. Crude spiked higher there. We are still seeing the markets under some near-term pressure. Is the Dixie and crude did do a big spike there. They're starting to reverse a little bit here. Big push back up in the market here. Bouncing off that neckline support. Qs are still underneath pre-market lows. SPY's trying to defend pre-market low levels. Dude, still looking pretty decent, trying to defend that pre-market low. SPY also defending pre-market low. Software still remains pretty weak here. Yeah, IGV still holding, but still looks pretty weak here. Microsoft is almost negative, going to fill the gap, which honestly, I mean, if it fills the gap, that leaves that doesn't leave much downside gaps. A lot of upside gaps in Microsoft right now. But man, just can't hold nothing. It can't hold anything. It's ridiculous. Can you believe that the pre-market high on Microsoft was around 380? Now it's right back down to 372. Microsoft just closed its gap intraday. It is now negative on the session. Micron still down 3.46. XLE turned green. Interesting. Still have Tesla up 2.5%, Meta up 0.6, that's been faded. Amazon doing really well, that's up 2.36. Microsoft just dipped negative, trying to bounce slightly. Google still up 0.33, but that's been faded. Apple up 0.19, that's been faded. Nvidia up 2.12, that's holding steady. QQQ still up 0.75%. IWM leading the charge, still up 1%. YS is saying he's short AMD. AMD, let's take a look at that. Yeah, AMD's strong, man. Wow, already hitting that upside level. Interesting. Let's look at Broadcom. That's trying to bounce. Intel, SMCI. Ooh, SMCI is a bit of a short level here. Interesting. Hmm. I still think the markets can float back to the highs here. I mean, we've done quite a bit of a retrace off of that move. It's a 618 Pierce retrace of this whole move, so we'll see if they can recapture this prior day high and build a little bit of momentum. Uh, Fucking Microsoft, man, negative. Go fucking figure, eh? Man, this stock's gonna kill me. Fucking dead money. SoFi still doing well. Snap's pretty juicy still. AMD still super strong. Ripping. All right, crude oil guys, seeing a little bit of intraday rejection. It's still green slightly. but coming in slightly. I want to see crude get rejected off of this 88.30 zone. Send it back down to opening range low. Let's look at this VIX again. VIX is trying to lose that 7-day moving average. It's about 5 cents above it, so I do think if the VIX loses that 7-day, it should start to rip, or the market should start to rip. XOM selling off XLE. Where's that XLE? There it is. XLE starting to roll over again. Again, that should be positive for the market. This inverse head and shoulders on SPY, as long as we hold this neckline, still gives us an upside target of 663. But it's definitely struggling. Oh shit, crude's starting to rip again. Going for pre-market high, up 0.8%. Dixie seeing a little bit of a 10-minute potential topping tail forming. So in 21 minutes, we do have crude oil inventory, so just keep your trades tight. Keep your trades tight. BA's looking good. Nice. Oil trying to make another push here, guys. WTI starting to squeeze for pre-market high levels. That's bearish for the tape. Again, we're still holding key levels, but we really don't want to see crude start to push much higher from here. And it is starting to, uh-oh. 88.68 is WTI pre-market high. We'll see if it holds. Just short GEV. Let's take a peek at GEV. Man, GEV to me looks like it wants to go to 1,000. I think they're going to push it there. I mean, I got some decent resistance up here at 970, but that's a rising target. But GEV is a tough short. I don't know. Too tough for me to short this name. It's got a bullish formation. It's still got more upside, GEV. So just be careful. I have quite a bit of upside left in GEV. That's a scary one. That is a scary one for to short. I think it's too strong. Just be careful with that one. All right, Qs are still defending pre-market low. Same thing with SPY. It's defending pre-market low. Positive sign. Now you got Microsoft trying to firm up just a touch here. SLV, that's doing quite well. SoFi still ripping. Let's look at SoFi's chart. Nice push on SoFi, guys. That's a nice little weekly hammer forming. I like it. I like it a lot. Uranium still ripping. Cypher still moving. Jeez. Cypher's a beast. Look at Rocket Labs. Anyone along RKLB? Damn. Just doesn't want to break this zone. Looking pretty juicy. RKLB. Short light. Let's take a look at light. Lumentum. Yeah, this one's a little bit more interesting. You haven't officially broken out here, so definitely some resistance up here on light into that wide range red bar, trying to sweep it. So not a bad spot, but if you start getting daily closes back above these high pivots, then it's going to be a tough short. Micron starting to get a big buy program. Western Digital getting bought up, guys. So here's the next rip in the market. These leaders are starting to get gobbled up quickly. Here we go. So leading stocks like Micron, SanDisk, Western Digital are all getting bought up pretty sharply. Microsoft trying to catch a little bit of a bid, filled its downside gap. You know, I don't mind that Microsoft has actually filled its downside gap because that's giving us the ability to potentially run from here now. At least I hope. All right, crude oil softening up yet again. Still looking pretty good on your 15, 30, and hourly chart for your Qs. I still think QQQ can push up to 593 and change, but we might need to consolidate a little bit. SoFi ripping up 3.5%. Nice to see. Crude oil softening, Dixie softening, bullish for the tape. Bullish for the tape, guys. XLE still coming in a little bit. XOM down 0.68. Big squeeze on SPY. Big squeeze. Iran will end the war at the time of its choosing. Thank you. Open on my vitamin C. All right. Squeeze it higher, baby. Squeeze it higher. Financials are still ridiculously strong, guys. That is positive. Still got your VIX UVXY down 4.13%. Helpful for the market. Yields are down. Gold, silver still ripping. Natural gas is flat. Crude is up 0.4. 12 minutes to crude oil inventories, guys. So honestly, I don't know what crude oil inventories are going to come in at. There should be a small deficit, you would imagine. That being said, there might be a knee-jerk reaction down, and then I think back up in the equity markets. So just be careful. That 10:30 time frame will likely prove to be some volatility. Micron's starting to claw back here. It's only down 3% now. Come on, Mr. Softy. Stop fucking around down here. You're so weak. You're so oversold, but no one wants you. No one wants you. BB. They're still floating and grinding here. Buy the dippers are still strong. You got the dollar and crude rolling over, guys. Crude looks like it wants to move to the downside. It's chopping in a pretty tight range. So far, crude keeps bouncing off the 86.50 area. So WTI, 86.50 is your area of support. 4-hour chart support level. SPY still looking pretty solid here. Micron only down 1.9%, clawing back pretty quickly here. It is clawing back. XLE guys continuing to look a little bit heavy here. XOM is almost down 1%, rolling heavy. Wow, that man, semis are ripping here, guys. Nvidia up 2.75% and squeezing. Squeezing pretty hard. QQQ looking like it wants that pre-market high, 591.80 zone. Software still lagging immensely. Got IGV giving up majority of its move. Microsoft also. CRM guys has went negative. Palantir still holding up 2.3%. Oracle still holding up 1.32%. Intuit has rolled over. That's down almost 1%. Interesting. Let's look at Adobe. Trade Desk is negative. Adobe's negative. So lots of distribution hitting your software names again. They continue to shake the tree down in IGV land. Spiking again. Nasty rejection in the market, guys. Holy shit, what the heck was that spike? What is that spike? Holy moly, guys. We got news again hitting the tape. News is hitting the tape. S&P, what a wick. Man, anyone in zeros, you caught that huge move. That was wild. What the frick, man? What the hell was that? I don't know what that was, but wow. That's news for sure. Dollar coming down a little bit. Crude, small rejection. Markets are... We spiked so quickly to 660. How can you even get a fill? That is wild. I don't even know what the news is, guys, but we may end up retesting that. Fucking Microsoft, man. You dirty dog. You can't do anything down here, can you? Crude oil still looking a little bit weak, like it wants to roll over to the downside. Lots of tape bombs. All right, 3 minutes till crude oil inventories, guys. 3 minutes. Let's actually watch the USO. So, crude oil inventories are expecting a minus 1.3 drawdown. Minus 1.3. We'll see what it comes in at. USO trading into this at 110, down 3.75%. So, market can go either way here. Forecast is for minus 1.3 million drawdown on inventories. QQ still has buy signals on your 15-minute, 30-minute, hourly, 4 hours mixed. Definitely a decent little resistance here. 590.20 is a major gap. Fill going back on the Qs to November of last year. All right, 11 seconds till inventories, guys. 11 seconds. Keep your wits about you. Inventory 6.926 million. That's actually bullish for the market, guys. Bearish for crude oil. Let me see what else. Gasoline inventories, they had a bigger drawdown than expected. But crude oil inventory is much bigger build than what was expected. Interesting. All right, so we'll see what happens here with the reaction. So again, technically the print for crude oil inventories is bullish for the market, bearish for crude. That's how I read it. XOM still down about 1%. Crude oil, not too much movement in oil right now. What's interesting is USO is actually much weaker than WTI. USO is down already 3.68% with that gap down, while WTI is holding 0.4%. Interesting. Dollar coming in a little bit. So XOM is continuing to sell here off of that inventory report. It's looking pretty heavy here, like it wants to go lower. We'll watch that. Let's look at XLE. XLE keeps getting those dip buys pretty strong. Qs are still ripping to the top side. Microsoft's trying to curl back up. Dixie's softening up. Yields are softening up. VIX is also softening up. QQQ looking for a retest of that 7-day. We should get through it this time, and I do suspect we can actually float to the 200-day. It's going to once again require software to firm up here, which it's trying to here. And IGV, what's interesting is it did defend its pre-market low level, but Microsoft is underneath its pre-market low. So you want to see Microsoft push back above pre-market low. That'll likely push IGV back to the highs. But for now, software still is lagging. Certain semis are lagging. Micron. Certain memory names are lagging a little bit. Crude oil just still staying kind of in the same vicinity as the inventory report. So the inventories weren't really that negative for the tape. Again, from a fundamental perspective, the inventory report for crude is actually bearish for oil, bullish for stocks, but there's been a muted reaction. Man, these nat gas resource stocks are ridiculous. Like EQT, RRC, AR. I mean, holy moly. Nat gas isn't even in a bullish market. It's just crazy. Wild. Dollar's trying to firm up again, guys. Dixie's definitely seeing a little bit more buy side pressure, defending its opening range levels. Crude is just sitting right on its OR high, WTI. So there might be a short trade here on the Qs, guys. Sweep the highs. If you can get a tag of this pre-market high level, there's probably a quick short trade, like maybe a 5-10 minute short. Um, if you get a sweep of the high, you'd sweep this liquidity, you'd sweep this liquidity, tap that pre-market high. You should get a small pullback off of that level. It's also kind of into that 236 fib level. Crude is still looking a little bit weaker here on the 10-minute chart, WTI. XOM continues to look a little bit weaker, XLE coming in slightly. Nice day for Snapchat today. It's up 4.24%. Uranium still up 3.8. SMR ripping. UU ripping. Cypher still strong. Rocket Lab's up 12.8. Damn, man. That's a beast. AMD still squeezing up 6.6. Microsoft ain't doing nothing. Lulu went negative, DraftKings went negative, UPS negative, Western Digital still negative, but well off of its lows. Bitcoin still above 71.3. PayPal having a good day. What else we got going on here? Intel having a stellar day, up 6.7. Wow, SMCI up 7.4. Holy HPE, that's up 7.8. Damn. Ticker feed, that's up 15. SIDU 21. Nokia green. Software continuing to lose some steam here. All right, that dollar still looks pretty firm. Trying to press higher. S&P still grinding here. So we're now trapped in kind of no man's land, guys. They could push us higher. They can also drop us back lower. It's a little bit of a risky zone. Crude's trying to push up again. Short on XBI. Let's take a peek at XBI biotechs. So the Russell is actually the strongest ETF right now, and I see the massive resistance level that you're looking at. Just give me a sec with this one. Let me take a peek at it a little bit deeper on my other chart here. So what I don't like about XBI is that it's back above this little neckline zone. You did get an hourly close, so this next hourly candle, which is still another 47 minutes, is pretty important for XBI. There's some resistance here. You can scalp it short, I think. Honestly, I think the market can push higher. So even scalping this area, I see the 20-day piercing it. it could work for sure. But I still got strong hourly chart signals that can push it back up to 125. Um, but it's a big spot. It is a big spot. I see that. Tricky. Tricky because the Russell's the strongest and biotechs are outperforming, and Russell's right into that 20-day moving average. And you can see XBI is actually holding more relative strength than the Russell because it's through its 20-day. Tough one. It's a tough one. I mean, you can probably start nibbling on a swing, but ultimately, I prefer the short on biotech. And I'm not saying it can't pull back here. You could get an intraday pullback back to this 123.50. So for a day trade, it's not the worst level. But for a swing trade, I mean, I'd like to see it take out this high pivot. Let me just see this volume. So that volume pivot. So you got a really high volume candle in here. No, sorry. Right in there. So your high volume candle is right in this area. So that 125.40. Then you got another high volume candle here. So there's definitely going to be some resistance. I'd say for a day trade, you can short this 124.78 level. For a swing trade, wait at least till it's above 125 or even higher. Yeah. Yeah, biotechs are freaking monster strong. I'd short it off the 125 Pierce area. Put an alert there. Software is rolling over again. IGV losing pre-market low levels. Not a good sign. No problem there. Just be careful with this biotech. It's basically recapturing key levels here, so it's not an easy short. It's stronger than most assets right now, which is surprising. But this Russell 2000. All right, so the IWM is getting some slight rejection, so perhaps that biotech should as well. But remember, the Russell's actually triggered a very bullish inverse head and shoulders, so as long as the Russell holds above this neckline, it can push at least to 260, if not higher. But definitely a little bit of resistance on the daily. But here's the thing, look, the Russell pulled back there, and look at this biotech, barely a pullback. So biotechs are freaking resilient right now. Wild. Wild. Definitely market leaders, that's for sure. All right. QQQ still holding structure. Your DXY and crude are softening quite a bit here. XLE continues to roll over. XOM continuing to see some sell side pressure. QQQ still doing a good old-fashioned float and grind to the high side. Still running into that 7-day moving average. I don't really like too many shorts right now in the market. I think we can press pretty sharply here. Crude, dollar softening. VIX is still being compressed here, guys. You can see that VIX had that initial spike. Now it's back under the 7. So the market's still setting up for more upside, in my opinion. I think the Qs want that 200 moving average test again. XPI still squeezing. Ugh. Excuse me, guys. Software continuing to roll over. Microsoft back to flat. Fucking ridiculous. She stocks are continuing to be a little bit weaker here. Good to see. Uh-oh, crude oil's trying to spike again, guys. Crude is trying to spike again. It's a bit of a problem. Because they're still remaining pretty resilient, guys. There's a big short level on SPY if it can push up to about 662 and change. Still looks pretty solid, but oil's trying to creep back higher here. IGV trying to get a little bit of a buy program. Squawk Box NYC is saying planning on shorting SPY at 660.8. Yeah, that's not a bad level. Super that high pivot. You do have oil trying to creep higher here. Silver still ripping. SPY seeing some pretty decent selling off of that 659 level. Biotechs are also starting to roll over a little bit. Still holding a little bit more relative strength than most. Russell 2000 starting to see a little bit of selling. The dollar's still curling down here, running into its pre-market high levels. Crude oil still trying to float up a little bit. IWM seeing some more selling. So markets are just stuck here at opening range low on SPY. IWM is starting to lose a little bit of momentum. It's pulling back here. QQQ still stuck under that 7-day moving average. little bit of theta burn zone, guys. Just be careful. Still think SPY is holding up relatively well. Best performing mag is Nvidia, up about 3%. Then you got Tesla up 2.72. Netflix has made a nice turnaround. That's up 1.62. Financials are still very strong. Again, we took our profits on BAC calls. Meta still at 0.84. Apple pushing back up 0.76. Google lagging. Microsoft lagging. Software lagging. Your DXY is starting to lose. I know, another sleepy session. It looks like a bit of a float and grind to me. I think we can still press higher. Markets are holding bullish price action. You've had the Russell 2000 trigger an inverted head and shoulders on the hourly, which has quite a bit more upside. But they may just chop us around here. You can see the S&P has triggered that inverse head and shoulders, which has upside to at least 663. And if you get to that target, then you got other patterns that we can look at, which point to more upside. What else we got? Hope I'm not coming down with a cold. IWM losing momentum. It's a roll in here as the dollar and crude are catching a bit of a bid. Big drop coming into the tape here, guys. Big sells. Microsoft back to the negative side. Micron still down 4.6%. Getting a little bit more red on the screen. It's predominantly software and energy that are struggling today. Got some weakness in healthcare. UNH is falling. Tempest AI falling. Rigetti just went negative. Yeah, so we got Microsoft looks like it's gonna make new lows. Starting to get very bearish on software again. Here we go. More downside for software. Microsoft is rolling here with the market. Pushing this market, the Dixie US dollar just had a really big spike. This is your pre-market. No, we're still above pre-market low in SPY. UQQ rolling heavy. Microsoft just made new lows there. Wild. Still trying to perk up a little bit. That US Dixie, guys, is a huge bounce off of its pre-market high, looking like it wants to try to retest the highs, perhaps foreshadowing more buy side pressure on. But oil 10-minute chart still looks like it can pull back a bit. We'll see. Microsoft is just rolling to the downside here, down 0.36% and falling. New lows. New 52-week lows. Software is negative. IGV. Crazy. All right, crude oil is spiking here, guys. Crude is starting to rip. This is also spiking pretty sharply. Looks like we could be gapping and cracking if SPY loses this pivot, guys. This pre-market low zone. We are in trouble. Crude is spiking. Yeah, lots of red starting to appear on the screens everywhere. Red is starting to show up. Microsoft down another 0.5%. Wild. IGV also going for new lows. Markets are rolling pretty heavy here. IWM only up 0.8% now. Things are starting to lose momentum quickly. Man, is that all we're gonna get? The fucking little gap and crack? Yeah, looks like Microsoft does want that gap. Honestly, 367. I thought they were gonna bounce it before because everyone's eyeing it up, but doesn't look healthy. Anything short dated in options is getting killed. Well, if it gets to 367, I'll buy more down there. Still spiking through its pre-market high. WTI is now up 1.47%. Not good for the tape, guys. We look like we're gonna roll over again. Flushing the market here, guys. Flushing, flushing, flushing. Jeez. Crude oil is ripping. Oh shit. Markets are gapping and cracking today, guys. Markets are gapping and cracking. Here we go. We rolling heavy, baby. We rolling heavy. Jeez. This is gnarly price action, guys. Look at this VIX. VIX just shot back up, filled its gap. Crude oil's breaking out intraday through its pre-market high levels. Your US dollars now starting to firm up. Iran's nuclear power plant has been struck again. Again? Gosh. Wow. Nasty price action. We're cooked. We are cooked. Markets are fucked, man. These S&P levels. All right, just come on down, S&P. Fill the gap. You know it wants to. Holy shit, look at ARM, ARM. Damn, what a beast on ARM. Again, QQQ does not really want to lose today on a closing basis. The 584.75 zone again. That's the zone that they want to defend the Qs at. Sec. So we're still seeing these markets bouncing off of that previous little S&P neckline. Crude oil still trying to press a little bit higher, so we're not out of the woods yet. Big tape utility. Yeah, pumpy. Yeah, the market looked very, very vulnerable there for a second, and they keep defending that neckline. So I still think we can push up to target, guys. I thought we were gonna gap and crack, but they defended it, and big bounce. I mean, it's a lot of chop. You're still kind of in no man's land right now, right? It's kind of like a 50-50. You can push up, can push down, but um, hourly chart of the Qs still is a buy. But we really need to get through the 590.20 zone on this QQQ. And that 590.20, guys, is this previous gap fill going back to April here. If we can get through this 590 zone, then I think we can get a bit of a squeeze into the afternoon session. So 590.08, big spot. Crude and Dixie are starting to soften up again. We're not flushing because the Dixie and crude are seeing some rejection here. Crude oil WTI is struggling to get through its pre-market high. USO still down 2.86%, so, and this VIX is fighting at that 7-day moving average. All right, guys, I'm gonna take a lunch break, couple errands to do. Overall, markets are still maintaining structure. I think you can long it as long as you stay above this pre-market low, which is around 656.47 area on SPY. You can long this market. If you start to lose pre-market low for a third time, probably is not going to be defended again. You'll probably flush back into gap. Keep your eye on that crude oil. Lots of headlines coming out again, potentially Israel escalating again, bombing nuclear sites. That's never a good sign considering there was supposed to be a truce or peace. The one negative too, guys, that I don't like about today's action is you've had financials XLF now roll over. So they say the market follows financials. Financials bounced early, and now financials are rolling heavy, so not the best sign. The small positive is that QQQ is outpacing SPY. So that's typically bullish when the Qs are showing more relative strength. But we'll watch and see what happens here. This is a bit of a long spot, guys. You can keep a tight stop loss if you get a 5-minute close below pre-market low. You can stop out, but this is a long spot here for SPY. You can see the Qs are also sitting right on that pre-market low zone. So if you lose that pre-market low, I don't really like this market again. You keep hammering off that area once, twice, now a third time. So the level is technically getting a little bit weaker and weaker. And we do have potentially some lower highs intraday and lower lows intraday. So the trend for SPY is very, very weak here. You can see we have our high, lower high, lower high, low, lower low. So we are in a bit of a downtrend intraday, guys. Even with the gap up, they're slowly fading us down here. Never a good sign. So end the stream a little bit here. Got a couple things to do. I will see you guys all a little bit later. I will have to close the stream out here, guys. Just watch that crude oil. It is trying to gather itself and push through pre-market high, which obviously isn't a good sign. You can once again see SPY just sitting right on that pre-market low. QQQ is losing pre-market lows, so not a good sign. Software still remains weak. Looks like it's going to make new lows. Microsoft, IGV, dollar still ripping. So things are starting to look quite bearish intraday if SPY loses this area. Alright guys, we'll see you a bit later.